Then play the commercial, ask a few questions, play the commercial until we finish the questions, until the conversation's over. We'll be mindful of the comments. If they have questions in the comments, we can attend to those. And just let people know we're here to have a conversation. I'm not here to be an expert, because I'm not. I just want to learn, so that's what I'm taking. All right, make sure your ringers are turned off. Everybody cool? Everybody ready? Sure. I'm ready when you are.
In 2019, we accounted for 13% of the total U.S. population. Did you know that same year we also accounted for 40% of all people living with HIV in the United States?
These are the topics that people don't like talking about. Until now. Come join the conversation. Start. All right, everybody, hello. We are live here on the BlackTeaBrownSuga Network. It has been a while. I am Eszquire. And, we got the intro video playing first. Hola! Welcome to the BlackTeaBrownSuga Network. I am Eszquire, the CEO and creative director of the BlackTeaBrownSuga Network, located at 722 Broadway. I feel like this is the church announcements. I have an amazing panel here with me today. We're going to have a great show talking about HIV and AIDS awareness and how it affects the Black community specifically. This is a very important topic. From these facts that I've heard so far, I'm realizing how important this conversation is to have. But we're not going to do it all. I don't have to do it all by myself. We have an amazing team. We have Aaliyah Oliver in the building, along with Mike, our youth intern. We're going to pass it over to Aaliyah. How you doing, Aaliyah?
I'm doing good today. I'm doing really good today. Pretty suave. I'm flowing today. We're just going to do it. And I'm joined by Mike, as you introduced already, who interns with us at the studio. And pass it over to our wonderful co-panelists, co-presenters, Belinda Berry and Elena Merlino. Yeah.
You ready to go? Okay, so I'm Elena. I'm with the health department. Just started. I'm feeling good. It's my first real educational event since I started in September. I'm surrounded by good people, good vibes, so I'm feeling better than I was earlier on my way here. A little less nervous.
Very first podcast show.
Very first podcast too.
Just doing all the first for you today.
So is it safe to say this has so far been your favorite podcast experience?
Oh, absolutely.
BlackTeaBrownSuga Network, baby. Dopeness, man. Thank you for being here. Belinda.
And I'm Belinda. I am very happy to be back. I've worked with Eszquire a few times in the past, so I'm excited to be able to collaborate with him and his team again. I'm also with the health department. I used to work with Elena, but I recently moved programs, but my heart and passion is still over here in STD HIV, baby.
Thank you, man. We need it, man. So we have an amazing show lined up today, man. Despite this COVID pandemic, this has been a show we've tried to do several times, man. So many things has blocked us from happening, but we here. We're going to play this video real quick, and we're going to take a quick commercial break, and then we have a list of questions surrounding HIV and AIDS that we're going to ask, just so we can get some clarity and some understanding. If y'all have some stuff that y'all want to share, feel free to put it in the comments. We're going to answer as many questions as we can. And just join the discussion. We got a quick video from about how we're greater than AIDS. Leah, you want to introduce the video real quick?
Yeah. So in this video, we have a Dr. Charlene Flash who's kind of answering why Black women are at a higher risk of getting HIV. So we'll see. And it's by greater than AIDS.
All right, let's check out this clip, and we'll be right back on the BlackTeaBrownSuga Network.
In the United States, as quiet as it's kept, 1 in 5 HIV infections actually occurs amongst women. And the majority of those women are Black women who are infected with HIV. What the data shows is that when you compare Black women and white women who are infected with HIV, the Black women who become infected with HIV actually have fewer sexual partners, are more likely to use condoms, and yet are more likely to become infected with HIV because there's more HIV in the communities in which they're having sex. Nobody wants to be a statistic, right? You want to be a person. If you're in a community where there's a lot of HIV and you don't know it, the chances of you getting it are higher. If we keep thinking of HIV as something that only happens in those communities, then we won't get tested because you'll say, oh, that's not me. I don't fit that bill. I'm not that person, so I don't need to get tested. Not because you didn't make all the right choices, but because you allowed the story to stop you from getting tested.
All right, man. Welcome back to the BlackTeaBrownSuga Network. The National Black HIV/AIDS Awareness Day is today, February 7th. I think my first adulthood look into how the AIDS pandemic affected the Black and Brown community in general was the show Pose. I was watching that show on Netflix. I don't know if a lot of people's familiar with it, but there a lot of members representing the LGBTQ community, and they have like this lifestyle. It shows their lifestyle, but also shows the strong battle they dealt with AIDS and the HIV epidemic in the 90s, and how nobody knew answers. Nobody knew anything. And back then, it was or felt like it was a death sentence. Now it's not. There's so many opportunities to extend your life. Again, I'm not an expert. We have amazing experts here who have the answers. So one of the questions we're going to start off with is, what are some of the myths around HIV and STDs?
Yeah, so I think the first thing I want to say is that so often when we talk about STDs, STIs, HIV, is we often talk about it as if it's something that happens to people as a consequence of bad behavior, when in reality, it kind of just is something. If you're having sex, the risk is there. And I think as a way to try to normalize it, I think that's the first step, is that you didn't do anything bad or wrong, but things happen.
So do a lot of people feel like do a lot of people have the tendency to beat themselves up over the results?
Absolutely. It's what could I have done differently? And so often, you know, a lot of the times, like, you put trust into it, and a lot of times, like, we've all trusted somebody. We found out later, maybe we, like, I put it in air quotes, like, shouldn't have. You know, we've all put misguided trust in places. But, like, even beyond that, like, it's so easy to be hard on ourselves, especially when we're hard on other people. And we tend to hold ourselves even then to an even higher standard than what we hold others. So it just becomes very easy for us to get stuck in that. Because, like, I've known so many people who are even professionals in this field, and when it happens, they know all the things. They know all the harm reduction. They know all the language trying to break down stigma, but they still get hit with the same, like, the same shame, guilt, all of that.
Oh man, I think testing, even just in general, man, just seems like a scary thing to do for me. And I mean, people that I talk to, man, I remember posting a status about it on Facebook, like some of the fears. And it's like, even when I know I haven't done anything, even when I feel like I've always had this big fear about getting tested. I know my mother used to be real big about it growing up, is getting tested. And every guy she would like that would try to date her, she's like, we're going down to the health clinic, we getting tested together. If you want a relationship with me, if you want to date me, we need to know your STD results. And I was like, that is ridiculous, mom. but now when I see numbers, it makes a lot more sense. Like, why do you think people don't get tested on the regular? Like, what do you think that holdup is?
I think there's a lot of factors that play into that. And like you said, it's if you don't know, then you don't have it. It's not there. You're not aware, which also plays into if you're not aware, then you could be spreading it. It kind of all is like a snowball effect, I'd say. But just like it happens to a lot of us, you know? It's just kind of like getting a cold. Like, you're interactive with people, and if you're not taking the right precautions, It happens.
And then ignoring it doesn't make it go away.
No.
Ignoring it doesn't make it better.
Not
Ignoring
at
it doesn't mean you won't spread it.
No, exactly.
And I guess that's one of the, we want to go back to myths. That's one of the myths. Like, most people with a sexually transmitted infection will not have any visible symptoms. So you can't tell. What I like to say is you can't tell by, a lot of the times, you can't tell by looking, sniffing, tasting, none of it. Sometimes it's there, and the only way you're going to know is if you're getting tested routinely. And I kind of always think of it as like a checkpoint. You know, if you have multiple partners or multiple new partners, or you're not sure of your partner status, it at least gives you a benchmark to like know when was the last time, like, who were my last sexual partners? Right. When was the last time I got tested? All right, if I do have symptoms, where's the ballpark? Like, where was the risk? Like, who do I need to let know, like, hey, like, might want to go get checked out. And also, I think one thing that also happens with getting tested is people don't want to be the bearer of bad news, because when you're that person, or you're the person with symptoms, even like you, like, it came from somewhere else. It didn't just magically appear on its own.
Yeah.
But it, you know, what is the stat? Like, 80% of people with a sexually transmitted infection will not have any visible symptoms. So, like, if you're looking for symptoms as your indicator to get tested.
I remember being a freshman in college, and this was told to us in freshman orientation. So I'm gonna ask you, we talking about myths. They say you use earwax. Now, I've never done this. This was a myth. They say earwax helps if you're like, I'm embarrassed. I don't even want to say it. Never mind.
No, share it, please share.
No, okay, all right. So they.
I mean, I've heard stuff about like using lemons, which lemons don't work. If you've heard that myth.
What do you do with lemons?
Never heard that
Lemons, I think it involves something down south.
So it's kind of the same thing there. That's like you put your finger in your ear, and then you put it inside of a woman's private part, and if they jump and if it burns, then that means that she has an STD.
That's probably.
I'm gonna guess it's burning off of some other reason, because I know people are dirty and don't clean their ears all the time.
Yeah, so I never tried it. I never dated a girl that was like, I want to put my earwax in you. Like, I never felt like those are the kind of women I wanted to pursue.
Yeah, I probably. Yeah,
I'm weak.
Yeah, no, Mike, no, but we think this stuff is funny, but there are people that live by these. Like, it's silly to people who are educated sometimes, but it's like, there's people that, I know people who literally have tried that. Like, they have put their finger in the ear and it was like, she didn't do nothing, so we were cool. I'm like,
maybe she should have done something. Like,
yeah, should that have probably?
What are you
is
doing?
That maybe like? So yeah, so it's like these are things that people live by and don't even know that they're living by. So no, these just some. If I think of some more, I'm gonna ask them. All right, Lee. So you got any questions?
I do actually. We started to get into it a little bit, like about the barriers that people may face when trying to get tested. But could you go into that some more? Like, what are barriers people face?
Yeah. So I think one is sort of what we were also kind of alluding to is I think when it comes to getting tested, a lot of people don't know what risk is. So like when I'm doing education and I'm talking, I always start with, this might sound scary and overwhelming, but that is not, my goal today is to not scare you or to keep you from having a happy, healthy, like enjoyable, satisfying sexual life. My goal is that as you make these decisions, you know your risks. And we've done a lot of this with COVID, right? We measure our risks every day, where we wear a mask, where we don't wear a mask, who we see, who we don't see, who was in our bubble in the beginning. And I think that translates well to like our sexual health, because we should be having those same conversations. We know what the risks are, right? So the risks are a risk of getting a sexually transmitted infection or HIV from having sex. The ways to reduce that are, if you're able to reduce the number of partners, get tested frequently so you at least reduce the risk of, because the next level of prevention is treatment, right? And then, wearing condoms, using dental dams, internal condoms, these are all using extra lube. Lube is your friend. Like, so these are all things that we know that prevent. And so if you choose to use some of these tools or you don't, at least you know what those risks are if you choose not to use any one of them.
So what about with like adolescents? What kind of like barriers do adolescents kind of face?
I think really just access.
Yeah.
I mean, we have our clinic up in the Hill District. How easy is it to get from the Hill District from here?
Yeah, access will be an issue.
So I think it's access. Even though it's free, we see people as young as 13 without parental consent. Like, it's walk-in, no insurance, but you still have to get there.
And then feel safe. Then go with somebody that you feel safe enough to go there with.
Because can you take a bus?
Wow.
Do you need to be?
Yeah.
Is it safe to take a bus? Is it like? Do you have a friend who'll take you, who won't judge you and won't spread things like,
Right.
because people often think if you're getting tested, it means something's wrong.
Right,
Instead of
right.
looking at it as like this proactive, like healthy thing to do, not a bad thing.
Interesting. All right, we're gonna play another quick video real quick and take another break. Again, if y'all have some questions that y'all want to ask concerning HIV and AIDS, please drop it in the comments. Education and stuff. This is again your first time. Are you good?
Oh, I'm hanging.
Kind of quiet, man.
You guys are bouncing. I don't want to interrupt.
And I'm the chatty Kathy,
Oh,
and it's been a minute.
Going off.
It's like it's been a minute since I've been able to like have these talks. So I'm like having probably a little too much fun.
Been waiting all day. All right, we're gonna play another quick video. I want to give a shout out to Ishara Henry, who's behind doing the producer work today. She's doing an amazing job, man. She's been helping us out. She's been here almost a year now. I think we need to do like a 1 year like celebratory thing, man.
Absolutely.
And also another shout out to our youth intern Mike, man, who's here with us. Mr. Model Mike, Mr. Everything, Mr. Two. All right, we're gonna play this quick clip, and we'll be right back with more of the Black Tea Brown Sugar Network.
Last night was a blast. I'm glad we didn't go all the way.
So, was that first or second base?
The thing is, I'm really into you, but before we go any further...
Hey, all you gotta do is put one word in front of the other.
I'm all ears, man. You got this.
Okay, reboot, take 2.
Talk about testing, your status, condoms, and new options like medicines that prevent and treat HIV. For conversation starters, go to cdc.gov/actagainstAIDS.
All right, we're back, man. We're having a few technical difficulties, but we got this thing, man. Again, this is sponsored by the Allegheny Health Department. Not again, but let me say this is sponsored by the Allegheny Health Department. We are going to throw it over to Aaliyah. Aaliyah has a few more questions to ask, and then we're going to hear some more information. Again, if y'all have some questions that y'all want to ask, just drop it in the comments.
For sure. Well, first, I kind of want to talk about that commercial a little bit. I don't know if you guys have seen it before. By the CDC, it's like start talking, stop HIV. And in the commercial, it's like a couple, presumably, and they're just chatting over coffee, kind of about sexual behaviors and getting tested. And the one man is like, just put one word in front of the other, kind of like talking about, hinting at how difficult it can be to like start those conversations, especially with your sexual partners. So I guess I want to start this part of the conversation off by asking, like, what are some tips or some helpful advice you give people who are trying or wanting to start those conversations with their sexual partner, but don't really know like how to start? Yeah.
Do you want to go or do you want me to?
I mean, it's fine either way.
I'll start one and then you
Oh,
can
the
go
new podcast queen.
I'm trying. Well, the first thing I'm going to say is if you're comfortable enough hooking up with someone, you should be comfortable enough bringing that up. Because if you're
I tell why you having sex with somebody you can't communicate with. That's it. I'm saying go ahead. That's what I'm saying.
And like it is hard. And like being personally on the end of that myself where like you're hooking up with someone you might not have a relationship with, you need to build that bridge of being able to be comfortable to talk about that, because at the end of the day, it's your health too, and it's you becoming in charge of your own health and not it being in someone else's hands. So you kind of need to put in your head, is it going to be worth it for me in the future to ask it now or to get anxious about it later?
Yeah, and I think accepting as somebody who's talked about sex a lot, it's going to feel awkward at first, especially. Like, different new communication styles, new conversations, it's like a muscle. The more you do it, the easier it's going to get. But at first, it's going to feel foreign to you. It's going to feel awkward, and that's okay. But it's powering through anyway and opening up that communication to make sure that you're not just taking care of yourself, but your partner as well. And it in some ways, it'll open a layer of intimacy as well between you and your partner, because it opens up to talk about not just, risks and safer sex practices, but pleasures, things you like, things you don't like, limits. It opens things up across the board to, really just make sure your experience, try to make it a little better all around.
Yeah.
I actually was going to say something not completely complete. Oh, I know what I was about to say. As a man who has grown up to be a man, I have learned that the best form of intimacy is communication. Communication, I have anxiety real bad. My days get real hard. Knowing I can communicate with you is the strongest form of intimacy. And that comes with everything, including STD testing. Having that peace of mind, knowing that we're on the same page when it comes to when it comes to limits and stuff with sex, but also when it comes to safety, when it comes to safe words, when it comes to what you're okay with, when it comes to your history. I want those communications not to judge a person, but to understand our dynamic of our relationship. And that's something I had to grow to understand, and I hope that other people can too, because it gives you so much more freedom when it comes to the bedroom of just and understanding the person that you're having sex with. It's cool and freeing. Got any more questions?
Yeah.
What are some methods that people can use to prevent HIV? Is there a preventative? I've been seeing a commercial about something people can take. What exactly is that? That's something new.
So it's called PrEP, and it's a pre-exposure. I can't say the word.
Prophylaxis.
Thank you.
Prophylaxis.
There it is.
Prophylaxis. I said it.
And so it's a pill that you can take if you are more at risk of getting HIV. But actually, in December, I was listening to someone talk about it this morning. Actually, they just approved of an injectable PrEP. So instead of the daily pill that you take, it's now, I think you start out at once a month and it goes to bi-monthly, where you can just get an injection, and depending on your levels or how you're reacting to it, you'll work with your doctor to see if that's the right path for you or if you should actually stick with the pill. But fun fact about it is that it was actually not supposed to be approved until 2024. But because of all the success with the trials with it, they fast-tracked it because it was just so superior. I think that's how it was worded earlier today over Truvada. It was just showing such great success rates that they're we have to get this out. So they did it a couple years early.
I think you brought up something and I hope this isn't too off track. I just remember something. You talked about COVID and the precautions that people take when it comes to COVID now and how fearful people are. This is the same thing. You get one life, and sometimes not every STD you get is preventable. Is not preventable, but is curable. So it's being mindful of what you have and who you're allowing in your space and their history. I think that you saying that was wow. I'm really big on asking people, have they been exposed to COVID? Have you been tested lately? All these things before you come into my space. And I never thought how hopefully that can translate possibly to everything. That's interesting, man. That's cool. That's really cool. No, preventative methods. That's cool.
I think COVID, there are a lot of things that have really sucked about COVID, especially working for a public health agency, just the disruption in our personal lives. It has just been chaos in a lot of ways. But I think as we're talking about this, one of the usually we say unintended consequences, but one of the unintended benefits is I think it gave some people the tools to be able to have these hard conversations that can translate. So
nah, for real, man. It's top. COVID has done a lot of, like you said, it's done a lot of hurtful and whatever things, but there's been some beautiful moments that's come out of it. So dope. Why do you think African Americans are affected so much by HIV and AIDS?
So that is a big question, but it's stuff that in some ways we already know. We know that systemic racism and how pervasive that is in healthcare and education. And then the Black Girl Equity Alliance put out, I think a few years ago, where they were looking at education and the types of education people were getting. And when you look at schools that had predominantly Black students, they were getting a lower level and lower quality, like sexual health education. So I think it's one of those things that it hits at all of these different levels. And then mix in the fact that, that just the way faith and church sometimes can play an impact in how we talk about things as well, and the shame that comes with that. I think it's this multifaceted barrier, as we're talking about barriers, but I think there are all these moving parts, and a lot of them have the same roots, but all these moving parts that impact sort of how that ends up playing out in just about everything.
See, I don't think I had a healthy conversation about sex until I was an adult. Like, I feel like I had peers around me that was like talking about the pursuit of sex. I had my mother that was talking about the fears of sex. Don't do it until you get married. Don't do it until you get married. And so that was fearful enough to be like, all right, let me chill. And then the church taught about do it. And luckily I was never in a position where I was around people that was forcing it on me. So it's like, for those who don't have the opportunity to get educated on it healthily, but are constantly exposed to it, that can cause a real issue. Because people are, if you're not exposed to safe sex, and you are recklessly having sex, or people that are also recklessly having sex. So yeah, being at a younger age and not having access to that education, man, wow.
Especially like, just like add in, you have like the race component, but then add in the fact with like young women, like so many young women, like the only message we get is don't have sex till you're married growing up. And when but we're not given the tools on how to navigate those things, how to navigate the pressure, how to navigate pleasure, how to navigate our bodily autonomy. Because at every instance growing up, it was hug your aunties, hug your uncles. Like, there are all these instances we were kind of taught to not respect our body autonomy. Or even as kids, share your toy with your with your cousin or that stranger in the playground. Which is because like my niece, when people are like, make her share her toy, I'm like, no. I don't share my things as an adult. If I'm out eating a sandwich in public, I'm not just like, give me your sandwich. No. Which is a little... I think there are all these little ways we learn
I dig it. No, I dig that, man. I dig that. Boundaries. Like, so we had Santa Claus here. Somebody had dressed up as Santa over the holidays. And it wasn't me. It wasn't me. I was... But look, Santa was here, and the kids coming along, I was always so mindful of boundaries. Like, their parents would be like, sit on this lap. I'm like, hey, no. Do you want to sit on my lap? And sometimes they'll say no. I don't know what trauma they've been involved in. I don't know what's going on at home. And so I'm very mindful of that. And so there was times where even in pictures, they'll sit beside me. I'll bring Aaliyah in if it helps them feel more comfortable. Like, and I don't take it personal. Like, I stop making it about me and just understanding that I don't know their environment. And me trying to force it just makes it worse. And so I've always been, well, not always, but I've recently been very mindful of just allowing people to have boundaries, allowing people to have consent. Like, hey, can I hug you? Is it okay if I hug you? Not everybody wants to be hugged. And working with youth and kids, they don't always have that option. It's like, hug your uncle, even if that's the same uncle that's hurting you. Hug your aunt, even if they're the same people that's hurting you. And so that can be very traumatizing, and you not knowing how to set boundaries, even when people are hurting you as a kid, if you're just being forced in these situations.
Yeah, it makes me think of this one story, and I saw it either on like Facebook or TikTok of all places. I learned so much random helpful stuff off TikTok all the time,
y'all.
This
is TikTok queen over there, Shasha.
Like, beginning of pandemic, I was like, this is stupid. And then all of a sudden, I was losing 10 hours at a time, just laying on the couch, just what just happened to my day? But One of the stories I heard was about this mom and her daughter. And her daughter was like, she was like 10 or 11, and she wanted her ears pierced. And the mom was like, all right, we're going to find a place to go, like, we're going to find a reputable place. So they did all this research, found a place 2 hours away. It was like an actual, like, tattoo piercing shop, not like Claire's where you go get the, like, gun.
Right.
So they drive, and her, like, the mom made the daughter do all the research, get prepared. She had time to think about her decision. They drive the 2 hours. They'd already put the deposit down, and it's time. They're sitting in the chair, and the daughter panics and goes, I don't want to do this. And so they take a second, and they say, okay, are you sure? And they talk through it, and they didn't force her. That was it. She didn't want to do it. It stopped, and she was like, when you're ready, we'll do it. And that was the end of the conversation. And like the tattoo shop, like Pearson shop, was like, all right, like, that's cool. We'll give you part of your deposit back. But I think it was this really important way to teach autonomy, because I know so many well-meaning, good parents who had been like, no. Just do it. You'll be happy you did it.
Because if it was me, I would want somebody to force me to do it. As an adult, I want somebody to force me to get this tattoo. So why wouldn't my child want me to? Yeah, seriously, man.
But I think those are those subtle ways that we teach people to, like, that both themselves and others need to respect their own autonomy and the right to their bodies.
And that not easily, but that then translates to the bedroom, because you're establishing a norm of setting boundaries. You're establishing a norm of having people respect your boundaries, and you're establishing a norm of having an opinion, having a voice. So it's like, hey, I don't feel comfortable in this situation. A lot of times I hear that women don't speak up because they're fearful, or they don't know what to say, or they're just like, I'd rather just get it over with. Like, I never understood that concept. Like, if the mood leaves, we can stop. If you're not in the mood, we can stop. Every sex session doesn't have to end in an orgasm. And like, having healthy conversations around that allows people to feel safe, man. And that's why it bothers me when I hear kids having sex, because there's no way for them to understand. Not no way, but it's a lot of times they don't understand that boundaries thing. They're doing it for the wrong reason, whether it's because it's popular, because it's cool, or because they're bored.
Or you have the unfortunate thing, the heavier topic for today is how many people, their first sexual experiences weren't of their own control. And then that kind of, once you start losing that control, you just build up all this trauma. And when we were talking about it's a snowball effect, that's a perfect example right there. Seriously. Like, because we don't talk about that. And like, when we get lost in purity culture, all of that, it all impacts.
Also, sorry. No. I didn't mean to jump it. But also, as a girl, as a female, we're all taught to kind of not talk dirty or bring up those conversations to other people, if that makes sense.
No, you're good.
Okay. Like, where was my train of thought going?
You
like,
said you're taught not to talk dirty.
Yeah, you're told, like, if you have any of those, like, of those thoughts, are like, no, like, you're not supposed to say that out loud. You know what I'm trying to get at here?
Oh yeah.
I'm just not great with words.
No, I was watching Big Mouth.
Good show.
And I remember the part when there was like, girls get horny too, and his head blowed up. I was like, wait, what? I was like we're talking about as an adult, and sometimes because I've been in a lot of situations where women do withdraw that because they haven't been. It's not that they don't get horny. It's not that they have that mood, but it's like they're not told to express. They're not taught to be allowed to express that.
And like you said, when they get quiet in the bedroom or when they don't voice of how they're uncomfortable, it all goes hands in hands of being told, shh, don't say that, now's not the time, keep it to yourself. It'll play into later.
How many people are not having these conversations? Man, seriously, we're going to play a commercial real quick, and we're going to come back and ask some more questions. Again, this is today is National Black HIV and AIDS Awareness Day. We are here with Belinda Berry. And I keep your first name.
Elena.
You're
good.
I'm sorry. And Mike, and Aaliyah, and Ishara, and of course I'm Eszquire. Here on the BlackTeaBrownSuga Network. Let's play this commercial break, and we'll be right back with more. All right, everybody, welcome back. This is Eszquire again with the BlackTeaBrownSuga Network. Today is National Black AIDS and HIV Awareness Day, sponsored by the Health Department. I want to give a shout out to some of our community partners. What did I say? Sponsors? Our community sponsors. Denise Zealous from Zealous Hope. She's an amazing person. Terrence Verchek with the MRCDC. Cindy Haynes with Focus on Renewal and the Father Ryan's Art Center. Kimberly, like so many people in this community of Star Rocks and McKees Rocks. have been here to support us and love on us, and we appreciate y'all so much. The Gazette 2.0, Mama Lena's, so many amazing people, including our amazing team. So shout out to everybody for taking us in and loving on us and being the people y'all. And shout out to Evan. Can we do a shout out to Evan too?
Shout out to Evan.
Evan, man. Evan Copefinger, man. He's one of our amazing interns. He's a freshman in college. He was there with our summer program this year, and we kept him on as an intern. So shout out to Evo, man. All right, we got 2 more questions. So I heard the health department has a service that can inform your partner of their diagnosis. Tell me about that. Are y'all familiar with that program?
Oh, of course. Partner services. So it's one of those things that as you're getting, say you end up with that positive test, they can help you notify your partners so you don't have to.
Without sharing your name.
Yes.
So they just get a notification saying that someone that you've come into sexual contact with has tested positive, and from there they can come get tested and come get treated, all from that notification.
That would scare the shit out of me. I would be terrified if they was like, well, I guess you don't need to be sleeping with everybody, Eszquire. There you have it.
But like we said, it doesn't have to be everybody. It could just be the one. Like,
I was thinking in the terms that like my mind would go crazy being like, who was it? But yeah, so if you're not sleeping with a bunch of people, it'll be easier to narrow it down if you're more selective with the people that you share your body with.
Or the last time you got tested.
Or the last time you have tested, if you're up to date on your... there you go. There's so many different ways to know. So they'll send like a text message notification?
So usually it's a phone call.
A phone call.
If they can, like, sometimes they have to get creative, especially if it's something for, HIV or syphilis. They're more likely to get even more creative to try to find people, because treatment is so... is very important and so like time sensitive,
right?
And so it can be alarming. Sometimes people call them the sex police, but they're not calling you to get you in trouble. Like if they're calling to notify you, like, or ask who your partners were to notify them, it's not from a place of like to slap you on the hand.
Right.
It's looking at kind of the comment I made earlier that treatment is another form of prevention as far as our communities are concerned.
Right. I think we do need to debunk the myth of fear, or just the feeling of fear when it comes to your health or health in general. Being around Ishara and Aaliyah all the time, one of the things I realize is a lot of things I don't do because I wasn't shown it. Like as a man, I didn't see another man taking care of his mental health, taking care of his physical health, communicating healthily, having healthy relationships. Like I seen none of that as a black man. So the things I would see was only what I would see black women do and people around me. If I want to learn something from a black man, I'll watch TV. And they wasn't doing healthy stuff. They were gang banging, or they was, whatever they want to show black men doing. So trying to find myself growing up and trying to learn who I was really such a struggle. And learning to take care of myself was one of the biggest things. Pedicures and stuff, manicures, man. Like I know to get in the shower, make sure the main stuff is clean. But like this, like Mike might be dapping his face. I'm like, man, what is this you be doing? Taking care of my skin.
Cleaning your ears.
Now that feels good to me. I don't mind cleaning my ear. My mama used to lay me on her lap and do my ears, and that was like sleepy time for me.
Or even like moisturize
your skin. I do that now.
Or like not using soap that like is
scratches you.
Yeah, that's like so hard.
For the name of smelling good. For the name of smelling good. No, these are things that like I specifically as a black man didn't relate to because I didn't see somebody like me doing it. I remember my frat brother in college, he used to put baby oil on. I thought it was so weird. I'm like, man, come on, we in a rush. He's like, wait a minute, he's taking his time. And now I do the same thing, and my skin feels better. I'm not as ashy anymore. Thanks to Shasha and Aaliyah for helping me put oil on. Not help me, but teach me that. But teach me to do that. So I think that's why I am cool with being a person that's like talking about mental health, talking about physical health, talking about taking care of ourselves and normalizing these things, even when it goes against the grain, because some people never had that example of likeness to do it. So I'm sorry, what were you about to say?
Oh no, hygiene is also an important part of safer sex. Like wash your stuff, man.
Brush your teeth.
Like brush your teeth. Like brush your teeth, wash your genitals, like because things can get gnarly if you're not using condoms and you have multiple partners. I discovered that it is a thing where people will have sex with as many people as they can without washing their genitals.
What do you know what they call it? They have a name for it.
Double D-ing.
They have a name for it. Shara, that face is what I made. There's a name.
I'm so sorry.
I never heard it, so I came up here. This is not an Arkansas thing. This is not something we did in the South. There's things we can get blamed for.
Just one post.
But that blew my mind how that's such a thing. That's weird.
Because I remember, as you could tell from our conversation today, I'm like, here are the things to protect yourself. And I was at an event, and one of the people who I was at an organization, and one of their adults. It's like the worst way to say it, but that's the only thing that can come to my head right now. One of their adults was like, will you please tell them why they shouldn't double D? And I was like, well, first, can you please define double D?
Because I know a different version of double D, but that's also, but yeah.
And so they they were like, well, it's when they have sex with as many partners without washing their genitals to see how far they can get. And I went from my usual, well, let's talk about this, to no, don't do that. Don't. Why?
Why? That's definitely the question I have. But what's the appeal?
I think sometimes it comes into cultural things. I've heard that having gonorrhea or getting gonorrhea, getting the clap is a sign of manhood. It means you've had sex and you're.
And what culture?
What the fuck?
I don't know.
Just among
but
people.
It's just different communities.
I don't want to, and I want to be less. I want to make sure I'm not judgmental. Everybody has their norms. I'm just very curious of what.
No, but it links back into how you said how adolescents are more at risk of getting STDs and stuff, and it goes back to that peer culture and not actual education.
Yes. Yeah, I wish I had a mentor. There's so many things that I have. There's so many scars that I have mentally, emotionally, that I wish I had somebody that was like, hey, you're enough. You don't have to do this to prove anything differently. You're already enough. You gotta process a process. I wish I had somebody like that, because I wouldn't have had to make so many risky decisions that cause hurt. But I learned from them, so that's the beautiful part about it. But yeah. All right, so we got one more question. What are some of the services that y'all offer at the health department? What are the things, when people come there, what are some things that they can make sure that they get taken care of?
So you can get blood tested for HIV and syphilis. We do chlamydia and gonorrhea testing. We do, not for herpes. If you have a lesion, we'll culture it to see it. We don't do a blood test for it. Okay. We do vaginal screening for BV, or did we switch that?
Yeast infections,
and trick.
BV and trick.
Wow.
And it's
what am I missing?
People are really nasty these days.
No, it's not about being nasty always. Just stuff happens, man.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, by the age of 24, 50% of all sexually active people will have had an STD. So if we sit in this room right now, there's how many of us? 6 of us? Did I count right?
Yeah, you did.
So it'd be no, yes, no, yes, no, yes. That is half of us. 3
no, yes.
3 people in this room.
Yeah.
It's just, it happens. Also, I wanted to answer one of the questions that just popped up in the chat is about access to at-home testing. There are different programs, but currently they do tend to cost money. So the answer is yes. And off the top of my head, I can't remember what some of these programs are called. There's different ones in different areas. But a lot of the times the price tag on them is upwards of $200 to do at-home STD screening.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Oh, wow. Do you see that changing in the future? Do you see that being something that's more accessible and affordable? Or do you see programs that look to promote?
So I see there are some health departments across the U.S. who have started doing different trials and tests and pilot programs. I know for a while the STD program at the health department we were trying, but it was just a lot of barriers. So it's something that could be coming down the pike in the future. But because we were trying to make it easier, especially with COVID, really kind of inspired us. But as of right now, not through the health department. But I'm always hopeful.
No, I think they have COVID tests. And they have like a lot of tests at home. And yeah, they have direct tests. Like I feel like that would really be a game changer. For people to just be able to be like in their room, being able to do it within the confines of their own home without worrying about the judgment or the stereotypes and all the fearing. Like that'd be really dope, but it's a little expensive as well.
Yeah, and so I think we're nearing a time where I think just like so many things because of COVID are becoming more easily accessible. So my hope is, yes. So my hope is that that'll be one of them.
Dopeness. All right, man. Thank y'all so much. Anybody have any last closing remarks before we have the benediction?
This was a fun first podcast for
This
me.
is your very first podcast.
I did enjoy this.
You seem so much in your element. I knew when you kicked back and put your feet on my couch. That she was gonna have a good time. I love it, man.
I was telling Belinda, I was like, I see why people want to do this for a living. This is
real.
so comfortable.
Yeah, and you literally just get to vent for like an hour and learn, like vent and learn. That's what I take. I want to learn as much as possible. Like I think when I first started, it was more about having a voice, but now I'm like, I look forward to other people having a voice. I look forward to learning, man, because I don't know shit. And the older I get, the more I realize that. Like I literally have been watching movies and learning from media and stuff. Like I need to learn. I need to read. I'm gonna learn how to read more. More. All right, but again, thank y'all so much. Today is again February 7th. Today is National Black AIDS and HIV Awareness Day. This show has been sponsored by the Health Department. We have Elena, we have Belinda, we have Mike. Yeah. We have dope Mike. No, it's cool. We have Aaliyah, we have Shar, and again, I'm Eszquire. Thank y'all for tuning in. Thank y'all for supporting. Feel free to share. Feel free to follow to keep up with things that are coming up.
And come down to the health department to get tested.
Yes.
Hey, what's that address on Wiley?
1908.
1908 Wiley,
Ave.
1908 Wiley Ave. That's in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania on the Hill District. Make sure you go check them out. Get tested. Know your status. That is the most important thing. Your health. You cannot get younger. You only have one life to live. Make sure you live it to the fullest, but make sure you live it safe. And until next time,
what's your status?
Have a good one.
Know your status. What's your status? Hey boy, what's your status?
Oh, that's cool.
What's your status? Hey boy, what's your status?
Awesomeness.
That was awesome. Yeah. You guys have such great podcast voice. Like it was just so smooth. Like
no, this was a community.
Anytime like you two talked, I was just like it's so smooth in my ears. I loved it.
Hey girl, what's your status? What's your status?
Hey boy, what's your status? What's your status?
What's your status? Hey girl, what's your status? What's your status?
Okay.
All right. Take 10.
More like 30.
35. All right.